Shalom. I want to start off by giving all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Wachach Chodesh. Double honors to my teachers, the apostles, and elders, the great millstone, and salutations to you, Akim, that's out there listening, pushing forward this word with truth and sincerity, and your few Akwat as well, that's listening with sincerity. I'm the brother Machaya from the Camp GMS Montreal, coming back with another lesson. This one's going to be fairly quick on how that we have to stay sharp with these breakdowns, okay, especially when it comes to prophecy, okay. We have to stay sharp within those things, because what if we call ourselves prophets and here it is, you don't know a breakdown. Let's say someone comes up to you, asks you, how do I break down, I don't know, Revelation 13:15, or which that you should know, or this one of the chapters in Daniel or something like that, where you should be able to give them an answer. Okay, so that's the point of staying sharp, constantly going over these breakdowns. So whenever the time comes, you have to answer these questions. You're not ashamed. You don't have to put more strength, right? Like we're going to read right here in Ecclesiastes 10 and verse 10. It says, if the iron be blunt and he do not wet the edge, then must he put the more strength. Right? So if you have a blunt iron, let's say you have your knife, the knife is blunt, then what? You have to utilize more strength to cut, whether it's a vegetable, meat, whatever that you're cutting, you have to put more strength, because what? The knife is not sharp. But if it was sharp, yeah, you just slice that shit through the item, man, with little strength, because it's sharp. So it's the same thing with you studying and going over these breakdowns, right? When you do that, that's you staying sharp. And whenever someone asks you a question, you're able to answer, effortlessly. Okay? You're able to answer quickly. Okay? And you're not just there trying to find the answer, you're pondering, you know what I'm saying? You're waiting for it to come to you, right? But if you've been going over these breakdowns and studying, it will come to you quickly. You wouldn't need to think about it too much. Okay, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, I don't know. I forgot, man. Damn it. And then you become ashamed because you don't know the answer, right? So you gotta stay sharp. It says, but wisdom is profitable to direct, and that's a fact. So let's get the one in 2 Timothy as well too. In verse 15, it says, study to shew thyself approved unto Yahweh, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Right? So we have to study to show ourselves approved, man. Okay, lest we be ashamed. Okay, you gotta know how to rightly divide the word of truth and not freestyle. Okay? You don't freestyle, man. You have to teach what's been correctly thought. And if you don't know, just say you don't know, man. Or, someone asks you, just say you don't know, I'll get back to you. I have to go into it. That way, it's less of a shame in that sense. Because let's say if you don't know, then you freestyle, you give some random answer, then you look stupid. You know what I'm saying? Right? Rather than just saying you don't know, then you just don't know. You that way it's less of an embarrassment. It's still embarrassing, even though it's still embarrassing that you don't know, but it's better to just say you don't know, man. Okay? I come to find out that it's better to say you don't know. Okay? And then you say some bugged out shit and then people are looking at you crazy. You don't want that, man. It's not a good feeling. Okay? Just say you don't know. All right? And then you go back to it, watch the videos, or you reread your notes or whatever. And then you find the answer. Okay? Rather than freestyling. Okay? That's just your ego, man. Because you don't want to seem that you don't know. So you feel the need to give an answer. Hey, just if you don't know, just say, I don't know. All right? But like it says, rightly dividing the word of truth. So you have to, teach what is taught, like I said earlier. Because, the Lord set men in place to give us the proper breakdowns. Like it says in Jeremiah, the 3rd chapter and 15th verse, I will give you pastors according to my heart, which shall feed you with what knowledge and understanding. And that's what our apostles and elders from GMS have been doing. And you have to stay tapped in. And also watch the older lessons too, the older breakdowns. Right? Let's say if you don't know a breakdown, you can search it up on the YouTube. GMS breakdown of Revelation chapter this or Daniel chapter this. You know what I'm saying? Whatever that you're looking for, you just type it into YouTube, and then the lesson will come up. One of the brothers touched on it. Okay, which I'm thinking of a precept. Give an answer. Give answer. Bear with me. I know it's in the New Testament. I don't know if it's in Peter. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, you have to be ready to give an answer, man. Let's get in the blue then. Okay, 1 Peter 3:15. Okay, so this is the book of 1 Peter chapter 3 and verse 15. It says, "But sanctify the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua in your hearts, and be ready always to give an answer to every man that asketh you a reason of the hope that is in you with meekness and fear." So you have to be ready to give an answer, man. Okay, because people will ask questions, especially when you're in the highways and hedges. You know what I'm saying? That's when we're prophesying into the wind, and people, they be looking. And sometimes they come to you and they ask you questions. Well, what is this about? Right? Well, what's this sign about? Well, what are you guys preaching? And then you go into it, and then more questions are being asked. So you have to be ready to answer those questions, man. Just like when you first came in, you had multiple questions, right? And those questions have been answered because the teachers the Lord set in place, they guided you the proper way with the right breakdowns, right? So you have to be always ready, man, always. So that's why, once again, the importance of being sharp, staying sharp, and studying, man. Like the saying, repetition is the father of skill, right? The more you repeat something, the more and more you constantly go into something, it's going to become embedded in you to where that it becomes second nature. Okay, so let's get this as well in Revelation 1 and verse 3. It says, "Blessed is he that readeth, and they that hear the words of this prophecy." Of a fact, yeah, blessed are those that read, man, and hear the words of this prophecy, right? And when you go into that word readeth here, like we always go into, in the Greek, it's a anaginosko. It says to distinguish between, to recognize, to know accurately, to acknowledge. So rightly dividing the word of truth, right? So you have to be able to distinguish between, okay? Not just read and there's no understanding. No, you have to read with understanding, man. You understand what you're reading, and if you don't, ask a brother. You know what I'm saying? Within your camp, or let's say if you're not within the camp, you go on the comment board of one of the teachers you watch, and you ask them, and they're gonna answer you, man, because they'll see the comment if you come with a sincere mindset, right? And did not. Let's get that, the Ethiopian eunuch that was reading the book of Isaiah. He didn't understand what he was reading, and then what he asked Philip to break it down unto him. So there's no shame in that, man. Okay, because we need teachers. That's 80s. What does it say in the book of Hebrews? When the time for you to be teachers, you need that one teach you again, which are the first principles of the oracles of the Most High, man. Okay, that's how the Lord set this thing in place. You come in, and another man teaches you. Okay, so let's read this, Acts 8 and verse Acts 8 and verse we'll start at verse 27. No, verse 26. And the angel of the Lord spake unto Philip, saying, Arise and go towards the south unto the way that goeth down from Jerusalem unto Gaza, which is a desert. And he arose and went, and behold, a man of Ethiopia, a eunuch of great authority under Candace, queen of the Ethiopians, who had charge over all her treasures, and had come to Jerusalem for to worship, which proves to you this was an Israelite foreigner. Okay, because that commandment that the males were supposed to come up, 3 times a year to worship, he was keeping that custom or that law because he's an Israelite, but he was just in the land of the Ethiopians. Okay, this was no heathen. All right. It says, verse 28, was returning and sitting in his chariot, read Isaiah the prophet. And the Spirit said unto Philip, Go near and join thyself to the chariot. Right. So the Spirit told Philip, to go over to him. Okay. And Philip ran thither to him and heard him read the prophet Isaiah and said, Understandest thou what thou readest? And he said, How can I, except some man should guide me? And he desired Philip that he would come up and sit with him. So, the eunuch said, Hey, I don't even know, man. Shit, the only way for me to know is if I get a teacher, because this thing is sealed unto me. Right? So it's the same way when you don't know something, you don't know a breakdown. Hey, you ask your teacher. You ask, men above you or whatnot. Men within your camp. And if you're not within the camp, then you go on the comment board. You know what I'm saying? We're in the time where knowledge has increased, man. Though you can't say I didn't have any communication to get someone to answer my questions. No, you go on the comment board, bro. You know what I'm saying? And brothers will see your question and they will answer it. Okay? And let's say they don't get to it or, they forget. Some way, somehow, the Holy Spirit's going to guide you to click on a video, too, that goes into the breakdown or the question that you had, which that happened to me multiple times, man. When I had a question and then, the Spirit led it to where that I clicked on a particular video and then my question got answered. Okay? And you got to pray on it, too. All right, for the Lord to reveal it unto you. Because what? A man can receive nothing except it be given from heaven. You might even click on the video, but if your mind is not open, you might miss the answer. Okay. So it goes on and says, verse 31, and he said, How can I, except some man should guide me? And he desired Philip that he would come up and sit with him. Right. So he called, he asked Philip, to come and break it down unto him. Okay, but that's the point. Right? He didn't know, so he got a teacher. Okay. So going back to Revelation, the first chapter, right, we read the word read, which, goes into reading with understanding, to know accurately, to distinguish between, right? So we're going to read that again, Revelation 1 and verse 3. Blessed is he that readeth, and they that hear the words of this prophecy, and keep those things which are written therein, for the time is at hand. The time is at hand, so gotta stay sharp, gotta stay immersed within these scriptures, man, constantly. Okay, the Lord did say what? Occupy until he comes. Part of you occupying is studying and reading, man. Okay, be like the church of Berea, which Paul commended them because they constantly went in the scripts. Okay, they constantly were studying, checking things out, and we do the same thing here, man. Okay, go into the words, right? Go into the breakdowns. Very important, man. And this lesson is to me first and foremost too. When we make these lessons, we be teaching ourselves at the same time. Okay. But anyways, man, like I said, this was gonna be short. I'm gonna close it off there, man. All right, by giving all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai,